Hello, mathematicians. Today we're going to be learning about whole numbers, more specifically how to multiply by three-digit numbers. To get us started, we have 185 times 236. Now remember, for multiplication the order does not matter. So 185 times 236 would give us the same product as 236 times 185. Alright? And now, usually when we multiply, we put the number with the most digits on top to make it easier. However, we would still get the same answer regardless. Here, we have two three-digit numbers, so it really doesn't matter which one goes on top. So I just rewrote it as our problem, all right? So starting with our number on the bottom, we have 236. We're going to multiply it by every value above it, starting with our 6, then our 3, and then our 2. So we're going to start off with 6 times 5. And 6 times 5 is equal to 30. We're going to bring down the 0 and carry over the 3, because our 3 and 30 does not fit in the ones place. Then we're going to move on to 6 times 8. Now 6 times 8 is equal to 48, but don't forget to add the 3 we carried over, giving us a value of 51. So we bring down the 1 and we carry over the 5. Then we have 6 times 1. 6 times 1 is 6, plus the 5 we carried over, we get 11. All right, and don't forget to add your comma when our value is greater than 1,000. Now, before we move on and multiply every value by 3, be mindful that we have numbers we carried over, so let's not get them confused with other numbers we're going to end up carrying over and just cross them out. And 3 is also in the tens place. So when we multiply, we're going to start in the tens place, so we need to add a 0 as a place value holder. And now we could go ahead and start multiplying with a 3. So 3 times 5 is equal to 15. Write down our 5, carry over our 1. 3 times 8 is equal to 24, and then add the 1 that we carried over, so we get 25. And then 3 times 1 is equal to 3, plus the 2 we carried over, giving us 5. And now, before we move on to the 2 and 236, cross out the numbers we used to carry over. And now, because that 2 is in the hundreds place, we need to add 2 numbers as a place value holder for our ones place and for our hundreds place. And now we could start multiplying with our 2. So 2 times 5 is 10. Bring down the 0, carry over the 1. 2 times 8 is 16. Add the 1 we carried over, so 17, and carry over that 1. And then 2 times 1 is 2, and don't forget to add that 1 on top, giving us 3. So now we're going to add these values together, starting with the ones place, 0 plus 0 plus 0, we get 0. Then in our tens place, we have 1 plus 5 plus 0, giving us 6. Then in our hundreds place, we have 1 plus 5 plus 0, giving us 6. And then in our thousands place value, we have 1 plus 5 plus 7, giving us a value of 13. And then finally, we're going to carry over that 1 and then do 1 plus 3, giving us 4. So 185 times 236 gives us a value of 43,660. So let's move on to our next example. 1,227 times 105. So we're going to write this vertically and make sure the number with the most digits is on top. And then we're going to go ahead using 105 and multiplying it by every value above it, starting with the 5, then the 0, then the 1. So starting with the 5, 5 times 7 is 35. We're going to bring down our 5, carry over our 3. 5 times 2 is 10, plus the 3 we carried over. We get 13, carry over the 1. 5 times 2 is 10, plus the 1 we carried over, we get 11. So bring down the 1, carry over another 1. And then we have 5 times 1, which is 5, plus the 1 we carried over, we get 6. All right, Before we move on to the 0, let's cross out the numbers we carried over so we don't get confused. And because 0 is in the tens place, we need to add a 0 in the ones place as a place value holder. And now we could go ahead and multiply. So 0 times 7 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. 0 times 2 again is 0. And then 0 times 1 is 0. All right. Before we move on to the 1 is in the hundreds place, so we need a place value holder for the ones place and the tens place. All right. Now we can start multiplying with our 1. So 1 times 7 is equal to 7. 1 times 2 is equal to 2. 1 times 2 again is equal to 2. And 1 times 1 is equal to 1. Now that I have my values here, I could go ahead and add them. In my ones place, I have 5 plus 0 equaling 5. In my tens place, I have 3 plus 0 equaling 0. Then I have 1 plus 0 plus 7 in my hundreds place, which gives us 8. Then in my thousands place, I have 6 plus 0 plus 2, and we get 8. Then in my 10,000s place, I have 0 plus 2, and that is 2. And then finally in my 100,000s place, I have nothing plus 1, which equals 1. So 1,227 times 105 equals to 128,835. So let's do our final example here. 10,154 times 120. When we set this up vertically, make sure the number with the most digits is on top. And now we're going to start multiplying with 120. So we're going to start with the 0 and 120, then the 2, then the 1. So 0 times 4 equals 0. 0 times 5 equals 0. 0 times 0 equals 0. 0 times 0 again equals 0. 0 times 1 equals 0. And now when we move on to the 2, because it's in the tens place value, we have to add a 0 as a placeholder. And now we're going to do 2 times 4, which equals to 8. And then 2 times 5, which equals to 10. So bring down the 0, carry over the 1. 2 times 0 equals 0, plus the 1 that we carried over, we get 1. 2 times 0 equals 2, 0, and then 2 times 1 is equal to 2. All right, and now we're going to move on to our 1. But before we do so, let's cross out any numbers we carried over. Because our 1 is in the hundreds place value, we have to start in the hundreds place value. So we need to add a place value holder for the ones and for the tens. And now we could proceed and multiply 1 by everything. So 1 times 4 is equal to 4. 1 times 5 is equal to 5. 1 times 0 is equal to 0. 1 times 0 is equal to 0. And then 1 times 1 is equal to 1. So now we're going to add these values together. So in my ones place value, 0 plus 0 plus 0 equals 0. In my tens place value, 0 plus 8 plus 0 equals 8. In my hundreds place value, 0 plus 0 plus 4 equals 4. In my thousands place value, 0 plus 1 plus 5 equals 6. In my 10,000s place value, 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0. In my 100,000 place value, we have 2 plus 0 equals 2, and in my millions place value, I have nothing plus 1, and I get 1. All right? So we add our commas, and 10,154 times 120 equals to 1,206,480. All right? And that is it for multiplying by 3-digit numbers.